Here's a song that will get your heart rate up. Every time I sing the word up, reach for the stars. Every time I sing the word down, touch the ground. The rest of the time, march with your knees high. Those magnificent men in their flying machines, they go up to the up, they go down to the down, down. They enchant all the ladies and see all the scenes with their up to the up.
Hello and welcome to the Powell River Airport, beautiful Powell River, British Columbia, Canada, home to a few experimental aircraft here in the Westview Flying Club hangars, including mine that I call the Spirit of Mackenzie. Over 6.5 years in the build process, I'm within a couple of months of getting this baby into the air and having some fun flying over the local salt water and all the freshwater lakes that abound in the Powell River area. So please join me. All my challenges, problem solving, learning experiences, laughs, and fun. I can use all the support I get, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up or a like if you like a video or two. I'm Bob Grantham, and I look forward to your participation in my project. Purging the oil system. So first you have to set the engine up for the purging, and you set it up by disconnecting the oil return line from the bottom of the engine in the sump, and at the connection you put in a plug. So this is a short piece of hose with a bolt on the end, and it's all clamped securely to hold the pressure. So that is blocked off, and the oil return line instead is put down into this container below the engine. And then on the purge connection on the neck of the oil can, I put a 5/16 inch hose, and I've run that down to a small air compressor because I need 15 psi 1 bar max pressure in the oil can. I've also taken out the spark plugs on the bottom of each cylinder, and I've disconnected all the spark plug leads. Taking the spark plugs out will allow the engine to be turned over using the prop more easily, and taking the leads off will make sure I don't have electrical connection that might inadvertently start the prop, the engine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put that little bit of pressure on the oil can, and then I'm going to turn the prop at least 20 times, probably 30 to 40 times, no more than 60. Now I should have a pressure indication to tell me when the system has built up pressure, but I don't, because I haven't installed the engine flight information system, the EFIS computer, in the control panel yet. So since I don't have that oil pressure, I'll be doing this again after I get the EFIS installed, whenever that is. Well, I'm going to start it in the next couple of days, but when I finish it, who knows? I mean, this is a plane, and everything takes way longer than you think it is. Okay, let's give this a try. Air compressor. Holy cow. Got a leak. Well, unfortunately, had to abort the oil purge. Yeah, massive leak when I started hand propping and putting some pressure, forcing the oil through the system. Started coming out like a gusher. Turns out it's this fitting here on the oil pump. And when this engine was supplied to me from the rebuild shop, they provided it with a fitting here that goes into the oil pump, which is metric on the pump side, of course, because the engine is metric. But on the hose side, it should have been American Standard. I think it's called AN, UNF threads. But they supplied metric on the hose side. So it's a close enough fit that I could put the hose on, but in reality, it never did torque up properly, and it was my fault that I even attempted to run the oil. I should have realized something was wrong. But I certainly realized it was wrong when the oil started gushing out down onto the plane, and hey, black gold, Texas tea. The kinfolk said, gotta move to Beverly. So now I'm going to take a backward step so that I can progress the oil purging. This is an adapter that goes into the fuel pump and allows the hose here, the oil system hose, to be hooked to the fuel pump. And it comes in 3 different configurations at least. All of them have a metric end to go into the engine, and then one of the options has a metric end to go into a hose. Another option, which is what I need, has a UNF thread, and the other option apparently has a barbette. Okay, so I'm going to take out the metric to metric adapter in there and put in the metric to UNF. So after an exhaustive review of the manual, I'm making a little more progress now on setting up the EFIS, the Dynon Skyview D1000 Classic version of the electronic flight instrumentation system. You can see I got the flight information here, attitude anyway. And over here is the GPS information. And in the middle is the engine information. This is what I'm trying to get up and running right now so that I can start up the engine. And you can see I've got the instruments that I'm wanting. I've got showing. I've deleted instruments that were pre-installed in the package that I don't need. Figured all that out. That's relatively easy. But you can see the problem I have is this big red cross through the only reading I really need right now so that I can get the oil system purged, and that's the oil pressure. I just can't configure it. When you do the configuring, and it's done by getting into setup mode, and you go to EMS, Engine Management System Setup, and you go to Sensor Input Mapping. Pin 6 is pressure, yes, according to my wiring diagram that I've been using. Pin 6 is the oil pressure signal from the pressure switch on the engine. And here's the problem. Okay, when you go in here and configure this, you match up. Yes, I have wired it up for pressure on P6. Okay, that's good. Then you go over here. What is the sensor? So here's where you input your sensor. So I select the sensor, and you've got a range of them, a whole menu of them you can pick. And unfortunately, even though there's probably 3 different Rotax ones, such as Rotax oil pressure Honeywell, Rotax oil pressure part number 456180, and also somewhere else Rotax oil pressure mechanical, which is the one I've selected because the other ones don't work, and this one doesn't work either, but anyway, I've selected it. You select that, then you go over here and you've got to put the name oil, and you save it. Okay, then what you can do is you go down to sensor debug data. So this shows you the data that the Skyview is actually seeing, and you can see, perhaps you can see on pin 1, the battery is actually receiving data and it's got a value of 12.43. That makes sense. 65 degrees. So everything's there, receiving data from the sensors in the engine or wherever, and outputting a value, except pin 6, oil pressure. Okay, I think I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm pretty sure that it's not a train rushing at me. Pretty sure. Okay, I did a lot of research on the internet. I called the Searey distributor in Canada. I called Dynon and talked to a computer answering machine, which wasn't a lot of help, but helped me clear my thought process. And I talked to the shop that had rebuilt this engine in 2015 for me. And I think I know what the problem is, and I think I know what the fix is. So first off, this is a 1999 Rotax engine, rebuilt in 2015. So it's got some older parts on it that are not reflected in the current parts manual and repair manuals that I have from Rotax that I download regularly. Okay, so on the oil pump, I have mistakenly put a Hobbs hour pressure switch. I took out the pressure sensor that was there, and that was an old pressure sensor, what they call, I think it's called, and I look in a service instruction from Rotax, and that pressure sensor is called Generation 1. Here we go. Perhaps it's even Generation 2. I'm not really sure. But quite old. Vintage 1999. And the rebuild shop told me they left that on when they rebuilt it in 2015. Okay. I should have left this sensor there because it sends a signal that can be interpreted over a pressure range by the Dynon. And what I put in there instead was a pressure switch, which just gives you off and on, which is what's required by the Hobbs hour meter. My bad. Thank you to John at Canadian Light Aircraft, the Searey distributor in Canada, for that information. So I need to put this back, and this will satisfy the Dynon, I believe, even though it's old. And then I still need the Hobbs pressure switch to activate the Hobbs hour meter. And what I can do is I can put it at this port here. There's another port on the pump that can be used for this. This is actually designed for providing hydraulic power to things like variable fixed speed prop. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is and one thing I have to be really careful of is the threading. This is old. This is an NPT, National Pipe Thread. The current pumps are a straight thread, a metric thread. So since this is old and this is old, and this came from there anyway, this will go back. This Hobbs will be NPT. It must be, because, well, first of all, I bought it in America, I guess, through Canada, which will likely mean it's NPT. And anyway, it's in there tight, so it's got to be NPT. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take off this capping screw here, just plug in this port, and verify that it's NPT and that I can put these devices in there. I'll probably take the Hobbs off of here, put it on this one, and put this baby back where it used to be. And then I'll wire this to the Dynon and wire this into my wiring harness such that it feeds a signal to the Hobbs hour meter. It's a little wet and windy here today, and I'm losing my instructions, so on with the show. Okay, so now I've put the original VDO circa 1999 pressure sensor back in the port that it originally was in on the side of the oil pump. And I've hooked up the pressure sensor lead that goes to the Dynon. Okay, welcome to another session of reclaiming lost life skills, bagpipe version. Okay, so before I can play the pipes again, I've got to get them into shape, replace the reeds, tighten up the joints, whatever I might have to do to make them playable. As I said before, these haven't been played in years, decades. Okay, bagpipes are a very organic instrument. They're basically made of wood, leather, bamboo, hemp twine, wool cloth, and some ivory. Probably in the old days, this would have been real ivory. And I think these are very, very old, so it's quite likely they are all real ivory. And some silver. I believe it's real silver. Anyway, okay, what do you do to bring bagpipes back into shape? Well, first off, we looked at each of the portions, the parts of the pipes. We got the blowpipe, we've got the chanter, which plays the tune, and we got 3 drones, which offer a sort of melodic droning sound, an octave or 2 octaves below that, the lowest note of the chanter. Okay, first off, the blowpipe. All these joints are tightened and sealed with, at least in the olden days, maybe they used Teflon tape now, I don't know, but in the good old days, we used hemp twine, which we would wax and then wrap around. And like very organic, use our teeth and some saliva, and make sure we have a nice, firm, smooth, airtight connection. Now on the blowpipe, traditionalists will say that's all there is to it. But when I was young, maybe because I didn't have the manual dexterity of my tongue, or I didn't have the right synapses going in my brain, or maybe my lung capacity wasn't strong enough, but I couldn't stop the air from the bag from coming back when I really wanted it to go out the chanter. Because you squeeze the bag with your arm to push the air out the chanter, you don't want it coming back up the blowpipe. So I was taught to put a little leather flap. I did it myself, a little flap which we would tie in here with twine, and that would form a check valve. Didn't have to use my tongue. But then later on, that was replaced, as many things are in this world, unfortunately, by a plastic check valve, which I will use. So, blow, and don't have to suck, but if you do suck, there's no passing air back that way. Okay, so that's the blowpipe. Nice. Okay, and then we got the drones. Each of the drones is similar. They each have a cylindrical reed. Basically plays one note. Nowadays these are plastic. In my formative years these were bamboo. Same principle, different material. Cylindrical piece of plastic. The air comes up from the bag, goes over the reed, and that can be tuned in here. Volume can be adjusted, and then what you do is you wrap some waxed twine on this part to get that seal again. Fix this up. I'll do this later, but that goes in there. And then when you're playing the pipes at first, you tune the drone by lengthening and shorting the length here, and tune it against the lowest note, or one of the notes, I can't quite remember, have to Google it, of the chanter. The next drone is the same as that drone, tenor drone, and then the bass drone has a larger reed. I would twine this end to get that seal, fix this up. And then you have 2 places that you can use to tune the bass drum. And then last but not least, certainly not least, is the chanter. And the chanter has a different reed. It's a bamboo reed, 2 pieces. In fact, I remember when we had difficulty tuning these, we'd actually put a human hair, your own hair, in between the 2, and that would make a substantial difference in the tuning. So anyway, that goes in there. Lots of moisture to make it supple. In this time of COVID, other medical challenges we have, the bagpipes are very traditionally organic. There's an animal shelter behind me. Okay. Good for now. Oh. Okay. So that's the drones, the blowpipe, and the chanter. And that's essentially what I need to do to get them back into playing position. The big concern will be the bag itself. In the original bagpipes, apparently these were the stomachs of animals. But more like sheep, but more, or was that haggis? I can't remember. Maybe the same thing. But in modern times, the bag is made of leather, and of course, leather being so organic, and you want it to be supple after some time, and this has probably been enough that time. It gets a little too brittle, so you've got to season it. And this bag hasn't been seasoned in more than 20 years. And I remember doing it, getting a recipe somewhere and seasoning it. I think you use a mixture of, if I recall, honey, I don't know what, I'll have to Google that too. But I'm going to try the pipes first with the drones, the chanter, and the blowpipe fixed up, and then if I need to season the bag, I will. And I'll tell you all about it in another episode. Okay, Sammy, that wasn't so bad, eh? The magic elixir that makes everything work.
Generator. Here.
Okay, Skyview.
Here.
There you go. Light her up. No gear. I don't believe it. Look. There's the oil PSI. The red cross is gone. It's showing a pressure of 6 pounds. And I didn't even have to configure it. But I should check that. I think success is on its way. I now have oil pressure. That means I can purge the oil system. And after that is done, I can check everything and then I can start the engine. Okay, here we go. With the hopefully final attempt at purging the oil system.
Generator.
I have everything set up
Here.
and ready to go. The canister is full of oil. Spark plugs are removed. Half of them are removed. All the spark plug bleeds are off. The ignition is off. I have the oil return line disconnected and feeding into a can below the engine. I have the inlet port plugged off. I have 1 bar pressure available to put into the can. There we go with the EFIS showing the pressure indication right now 6 psi. And what I'm going to be looking for as I hand turn the prop counterclockwise 20 to 60 times is for this pressure to come up to between 30 and 60. Maybe what I'll do is go to a different screen. Turn off the map, turn off the PFD. There we go. Now we can see the oil pressure a little more clearly. So here we go. Let's give this a try. You'll hear me counting out the prop turns in the background, hopefully. Maybe drowned out by the air compressor now and again. And we'll see how this goes. And of course I have to check, not only did I keep the oil pressure, I keep the air pressure on the oil can at 15 psi or 1 bar or less, but that I don't lose the level of the oil. So a little bit complicated, but hopefully we can pull this off. One, two, 1 left. 1, 2, 2 revs. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. Check the air pressure. And oil pressure is now showing 11. Okay. 15. Oil pressure is up at 18. That's encouraging. Air pressure. One, 2, 16. 1, 20. Oil pressure is 24. Hey, by Jove, I think we've got it. Just the other day, Rotex released an oil purging video, which was very timely for me, and they indicated 30 psi would be appropriate to indicate that you've got pressure. One, 2, 21. 29. 1, 2, 30. Hey, 33. That sounds excellent. What I'm going to do now is carefully take the top off, the lid off the oil can. Make sure I still got an oil level. Excellent. The oil is still halfway up the flat bar at least. Excellent. So now I'm just going to check for leaks, and then I will put the oil system back together. Hoorah! Success! I know it may appear through all my struggles with this Rotex engine that I have no qualification to be doing the work I'm trying to do, but I did take a course as testified in the certificate behind me and as on this little name tag hanging around my neck. That does state that I am qualified to service and maintain the engine up to the 100-hour annual inspection. So, I think I must have forgot a lot of the things that they dutifully tried to pound into my head at the Rotex shop in Vernon. Rotex being the Rotax distributor service.